For today's random video blog, I wanted to discuss something that went down 5 years ago this week. It was either 5 years ago, I think it was from Thursday, that it occurred. And it's crazy to me that it's been 5 years, but of course, this week marks the 5-year anniversary of the death of the WWE superstar Umaga, who wrestled in the WWE from 2006 to 2009. And his legacy, I mean, I'm not going to say he's a WWE Hall of Famer, but to think he was only in the company for 3 years is amazing to me. I think he left a huge impact, especially for Samoan wrestlers like the Usos and Roman Reigns, who have since followed in his footsteps. But before I go on to that, let me talk about the experience itself. Watching in 2008, in April of 2008, and watching ever since then, I was only exposed to the Umaga character after his undefeated streak had been broken by John Cena, and he wasn't involved in the title picture anymore. And a majority of the time that I was watching from April of 2008 to when he was released in the summer of 2009, they really did not do anything with him. And it's ridiculous that he was one of those guys that was really, really talented. They built him up to be a monster heel in the company. And once they broke his undefeated streak, they really did nothing with him. He did some stuff in 2007, like he was still involved in some top-tier storylines for the most part. But going into 2008, he was tag teaming with Carlito. He was drafted to SmackDown. He got injured. He was out for a while. And he did one-off feud with CM Punk right before he got released, actually. And I think he was busted for violating the wellness policy. He didn't want to go to rehab, so they cut him. I think something similar happened to Carlito about a year later. But that was really disappointing to hear about, if only because I don't know if he was originally supposed to go over in their Extreme Rules match. I think it was the Samoan strap match. I reviewed it here on the channel earlier this year if you want to go back and check it out. Cheap plug. But still, though, I'm not exactly sure if he was supposed to go over in that Samoan strap match and they found out that he was going to be released or suspended or whatever, so they made Punk win. I'm not exactly sure. But I do remember that he lost on that pay-per-view, and the next day they announced his release from the company, which was really shocking to me because I was not Umaga's biggest fan, but I did respect his work, and I did like the character, and I did think that there was a lot of untapped potential with Umaga. The least they could have done with the guy was give him the world title over on SmackDown or something like that, and they never did, which was a huge dropping of the ball to me anyway. So, you fast forward a couple of months, it's about 6 months later, in December of 2009, like I said before, 5 years ago this week, December 4th, 2009, it's a Friday. And I've always noticed, some of the worst things in wrestling history have always happened on Fridays. That has not since been the case, but a lot of people have been released on Fridays, a lot of passing have happened on Fridays. Lance Cade, I remember, passed away on Friday. Macho Man Randy Savage passed away on a Friday in 2011, May 20th, 2011, to be exact. And I'll probably talk about that when May rolls around. But, still, though, December 4th, 2009, I had heard something bad had happened to Umaga. I think he was, I don't think I heard right off the bat that he had passed away. I think I heard that he suffered a heart attack, and it was very surprising to me. He had just competed a series of matches, I think that summer, on Hulk Hogan's tour or someone's tour in Australia, and I think he was working a few matches with Mr. Kennedy, and I think that would be ultimately his last wrestling match, I think, was against Mr. Kennedy, the same guy who competed in the last match of Eddie Guerrero, of course, in 2005. But I heard that, and I heard that he got a heart attack, and I think it was shortly thereafter that the news broke that he had passed away. And it was very saddening to me for a number of reasons. One, that same day, actually, coincidentally enough, my great-grandmother passed away at the age of 91, I think it was. So it was like a shitstorm of all this other stuff happening that same day, and it was just crazy to me that, Umaga, like I said before, not one of my favorite wrestlers ever, but a superstar that I kind of, quote-unquote, grew up on. In the 2008-2009 era of WWE, to see him pass away at such a young age, too. The guy was in his 30s when he passed away. It took me by complete surprise, and to have her pass away as well later that same day. It was a pretty bad day for me, and my favorite show, Monk, ended, I think, either that same night or the next day. It was the worst weekend ever for me. But I was just so surprised by that, and it was, like I said before, very, very saddening, because at the age of 30-something years old, the guy had so much more left to do as a wrestler and, as a person in general. He had the rest of his life to live. And, even after he was released from WWE, I was really hoping that he was going to go over to TNA. I think he could have been a valuable asset to them. He was going to sign with them. I don't know if he was going to in 2010 because I know Mr. Kennedy did, Jeff Hardy did in early 2010. So maybe, and like I said before, I think it was the Hulk Hogan tour that summer that he competed on. So I think there was a lot of buzz that Umaga would eventually join the promotion when Hogan and Bischoff took over the company in early 2010. So who knows? Maybe had he not passed away, could have gone to TNA and had a series of matches with Samoa Joe. That was always a dream match for a lot of people. Maybe not on the caliber of like Undertaker and Sting. I mean, I'm not just saying that because they're both Samoan, but I think in the match itself, I think could have been great because Samoa Joe is also a great wrestler. I think that goes without saying, but yeah, just the fact that he passed away 5 years ago this week, I mean, just blows my mind that it's been not only one that long, but the fact that, I mean, it was just such a shocking death. And you talk about wrestling death and all the deaths that have happened in wrestling over the years, and Umaga just jumps out to me. I don't know if it was steroids. I think it was something wrong with his heart, and it was just absolutely surreal. But yeah, like I said before, I think he'll always be remembered, and it was very touching to me to hear the Usos talk about it in the recent WWE Network special. And the Usos have talked about it before, I think in interviews, and before they turned babyface, maybe they were talking about it on an episode of like NXT. They devoted one of their moves to him, and I think Rikishi in his return match to Raw a couple of years ago used the Samoan Spike in honor of Umaga, and he used one of Yokozuna's moves, the Banzai Splash, I think, in honor of Yokozuna, who has also since passed as well. But that was very touching. But they've also talked about it in like interviews and stuff like that, like in the WWE magazine. I think they were talking about that Umaga was their uncle and he was their huge inspiration. But it wasn't until the WWE Network special a couple of weeks ago, which I thought was great. So definitely go back and check that out, if only for this part. But it was very touching to me. I almost got emotional just watching it. I mean, maybe it's just me, but I thought it was very touching. And they were talking about Umaga, and I think whatever Uso was talking about, either Jimmy or Jay, I still can't tell them apart to this day. Almost broke down crying talking about it, because I think the day that they got signed to their FCW deals in 2009 was the same day that Umaga passed away. And had it not been for Umaga, they said they may not have become wrestlers, because it was really him that pushed them to pursuing their dream of becoming professional wrestlers and not pursuing the career of football. So it really was Umaga who kind of shaped the career of the Usos, and who knows, had it not been for him, we may not have the Usos today, who I think, in my opinion, are one of the greatest WWE tag teams of the modern era in recent memory. I mean, no other tag team comes to mind in terms of great matches, connection with the crowd, great personality, the accolades, and stuff like that. But, I mean, it was also very touching to me when they finally won the WWE tag team titles earlier this year. I just kind of saw that as a tribute to Umaga, their fallen uncle, their recently passed, the late, great Umaga. But, yeah, I mean, not a lot of people reminisce on Umaga like they do, like Macho Man. And of course, Macho Man, as I say that right in back of me, is in a completely different level than a completely different league than Umaga. No disrespect to either guy. But, I don't think Umaga gets enough credit, in my opinion. And in that I do think that he could have been a world champion for WWE had they utilized him properly. And they did, like I said before, for the first year or so when they made him undefeated. But after that, they just wasted his talents by giving him nothing to do. So it's really a shame that the guy was not able to fulfill his full potential in the WWE. I don't blame him. I more so blame the WWE for not booking him properly. And, it's really a shame that it's been 5 years since he passed this week. I mean, like I said before, time flies. But rest in peace, Umaga. You have been missed by fans worldwide, including myself.